David, Don sort of highlighted the way in which the campaign advisors in this film really emerge as stars of the film. But I don't think that was your intention when you started out. Can you talk about how they kind of came into focus in the making of this film?
Yeah, well, it's a lesson in humility, I guess. Actually, I met Don the very first day that we filmed on this, and we started courting him immediately as a potential film subject. He retained his sense of modesty. He never once let me put a wireless mic on him. That was where he drew the line. But we knew from the beginning that Don could be a great part of this. Mark Gooden, the interview in the car that you see interspersed throughout, all happened less than 2 weeks before the election, and we had been filming for 11 months. And the day after that interview, he invited us, or we wormed our way in, now that we were in his good graces, into the meeting around the conference table of all of North's advisors, which you also see interspersed through the movie, but which all took place on one day. Less than 2 weeks after the election, and so when we went into the editing room, we knew that Mark had to be a main character, and what we discovered was that he had really actually been thrusting himself in front of our lens the entire time, but we just didn't realize it. I guess we thought like, whatever, who's this guy? And so it wasn't impossible to put together. It was a little difficult to figure out how to get him on stage, as it were, though, once we discovered the footage that we referred to in the editing room as the wimpy scene, where he literally sits right in front of the lens between the camera and North and starts eating that hamburger, and drinking what looks like a beer. I think it actually was a root beer, that we had our way to get him on stage. So yeah, it was not what we planned.
Don, did you have any reservations being on camera as a switch from your normal role being the reporter?
And my editors had some reservations. When it came to be obvious to me that David and RJ were going to use a lot of footage of me, I went to Ben Bradley, the editor of the Post, and told him what was going on. And he said, well, you know what our rules are, and don't cross any lines. And I don't think I did. I also have to admit that there is some kind of magnetic draw to being on stage, so to speak. And I liked it.
I remember one point not so far from the election where we had been together for quite a while, but we came into a room. I think it was the day that the message of the day was race, and we were all waiting around. And Don said he had figured something out, and I asked him what that was. He said, "I figured out when I walk into the room and I see you guys in whatever corner, that the real story's on the other side of the room." But I want to ask you if, in fact, in retrospect, you think that's true, or whether you think we might have caught the real story of that election.
Oh, I think you did catch it, and that's why it's such a great film. The candidates cooperated by, I don't think, ever playing to you. They played to their audiences. And nobody could ever stage direct Chuck Robb walking up and down that market looking for somebody to shake hands with. But no, I think that you did.
I want to give another shout out and another lesson in humility. We had been on the road for quite a while, and it was RJ and myself and Nick Dube, who's the DP of this film, who has an amazing ability to disappear at the right moments. And I remember vividly having drinking beer one night after a long day, crossing the length and the breadth of the Old Dominion, as Holly liked to say. And basically, Nick saying, you know, this North thing is interesting, but I don't see sort of where it's going to go, and it seems like more of the same, whatever, you know, essentially, and I was being kind of defensive about it because it was that central irony of North that drew me to this in the first place. But essentially saying, you know, we really need to go find out what Rob is all about and what's going on there, and that, of course, you know, unfolded a whole other dimension of the film. So just another way in which I bumbled along and didn't have any idea what I was doing. So.
Some things have changed about the media since this film was made. In fact, a big one is that, you know, it probably wouldn't be that much of a discussion between a newspaper reporter and his editor whether a TV camera is going to follow him around, because these days probably the newspaper itself would be sending out a TV camera to follow you around. But I wonder in the saturation coverage of 24-hour news cycles and just the proliferation of TV cameras and small cameras and that kind of technology, I think there's a sensation that we know more about what's happening behind the scenes of a campaign, that, you know, secrets don't stay hidden the way they did in earlier decades of campaign, including very personal secrets. But I wonder if you think that's true. Do we know everything there is to know about what's going on in a political campaign today?
I think we know very much less. And because the proliferation of news sources, you know, the great newspapers are dying. The Times may survive. I'm not sure the Post will. And so we all live in our own universe. You watch MSNBC or you watch Fox News. And so very few people are getting not a balanced view, but both views. So I'm worried about that. I'm worried that this election is really going to decide what kind of a country we're going to have, really. Because Mitt Romney is, well, let me go back once. A lot of people in politics and in journalism are in it for the fun. It's a game. And I think it's a game to Mitt Romney. He wants to win. He wants to be a winner. He needs to say whatever he wants to win. A lot of these people, like the two political people who were smoking cigarettes in the back of the room and talking about the candidates, they're in it for the game. Mary Madeline and her husband, they're in it for the game. How could they be married and have those views if they took this stuff seriously? They love it. It's a game. So that's kind of a shame too, because there's still all these good people out there that talk about it's not a game. They believe it and they stake their money on it. But it used to be, if you wanted to really know what was going on, you could read a good newspaper, you could watch CBS News or whatever one you wanted, and you could make your own decisions. And now your decisions are being made for you. I like to watch MSNBC, but I can only take so much of it. It's so slanted. It's so, you know, it just makes me sick to see this, because I know that that's what people are watching. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's part of what's going on, I think.
I just want to throw in, having not seen this movie in a long time, that one of the things that struck me, and I don't think this is a lack of humility as much as historic context, is the access we got was ultimately was unbelievable. I mean, the things that North's campaign people were doing in front of the cameras, you know, reading the blowjob memos or whatever, you would never find in any of these products that, you know, purport to show you what's behind the scenes. And partly that's because people have wised up and they're constantly wising up, and partly it's because, you know, even it takes an independent, but you know, the crews that are doing these things now, and they are crews, you know, and they're hired by MSNBC or they're don't have 11 months to spend covering a single campaign and to build up that trust and that situation where ultimately Mark Goodman is going to plop himself in the back seat and unburden his soul of what's troubling him, and then give us the access so we can see that act, play